Let's take a look at Spotlight, Org Health and Security Scan. This application is really easy to use. Just download the Metazoa Player and install it. The first time you run it, you'll come here. Log into any Salesforce org over here at right and click the Launch button to get started. Now, the first time you do this, it will download all of the metadata in your org, and that can take a few minutes. If you have a really big org, it can take quite a while, but pretty soon you'll come here to the main screen of Spotlight, Org Health and Security Scan. Over here at left are all of the different tests that you can run on your org. You can open up any category and see the available tests. Let's select Objects with too many validation rules. You can see all of the default parameters for this test over here at right. If you click on the Preview tab, you will see a preview of that test. The summary bar up here at top is either green, yellow, or red, depending on whether you passed the test or failed it. The objects that have problems are listed below in the table, and it tells you what the problem is in each case. This object has 14 validation rules, for example. You can click this link to the right and go into Lightning Experience and see the offending object. Here it is. You could make changes from here. Back on the main screen, you'll see that you can also change the parameters below for the test. So for example, in your org, maybe too many validation rules is 6 or more. Now when we preview the report, your criteria have been applied to the validation rules and only 2 objects fail the test. You can also change the color coding. So for example, let's say if anything fails the test, we want to give a warning. And we can preview the report, and now you see that the summary bar has changed to yellow. If you want to return a test back to the default values, click the Default Values button, and it'll put everything like it was back when you started. Okay, now you can also select multiple tests over here at left. As a matter of fact, if you right-click this list, you can select them all with a menu. Let's turn all the best practices on. And if they're checked, that means they'll appear in the Display Report tab. So now you go to Display Report and it'll run all of those tests. And now Spotlight will deliver a comprehensive color-coded report about all the best practices in your org. And so here's all the different summary lines, the summary table for the best practices, and below that are all the individual tables that contain information about all of the individual problems that you can find in your org. And below is the Export Report button, which will let you save your report as CSV, PDF, HTML, or native Excel format. All right, so that's how Spotlight works. Let's go back and dive into some of the details about the individual tests that are available. The Security Risks category will show you security health check warnings, org resources with low availability, release updates that are overdue. It'll also show you records that have been exposed to guest site users. Lastly, you can look at profiles and permission sets that have changed recently. This will show you new permissions that have been granted to users, as well as old permissions that have been taken away. The Metadata Audit category will show you metadata assets that have been deprecated, and also situations where there are too many reports, profiles, or permission sets compared to the number of active users. Lastly, we'll show you custom profiles and permission sets that have been assigned to very few users or groups. The Forgotten Assets category will show you 40 or 50 different metadata types that are either hidden, not active, or disconnected from your org. In each case, you can go through, find those assets, and either delete them or make them active. The Technical Debt category will show you fields with lots of empty values. Those fields are not actively being used. It will show you pick lists with lots of junk values. They might need new pick lists or some kind of cleanup. Lastly, we'll show you reports, dashboards, and email templates that have gone stale and not been used in quite a while. The User Adoption category will show you users that have not logged in recently and users that have not modified any records recently. The Inactive Cleanup category looks at the effect of inactive users that are still connected to your org. For example, You can have a situation where active users are actually reporting to inactive managers. That causes all kinds of problems. Another example is an inactive user that's the running user for a dashboard. That causes the dashboard not to work. It's not just inactive users, we also catch inactive email addresses that are still being used to send important notifications in your org. The best practices category has some great reports that look at all the best practices surrounding the use of data in your org, fields with missing compliance information, labels that look like other fields, objects with too many record types or triggers, records that are missing record type information or owned by inactive users, opportunities that are overdue or have no activity records, tasks that have been open for too long. All of the best practices will really help you clean up the data in your org. Lastly, we look at comprehensive code quality reporting, including triggers that reference multiple assets, Apex classes and triggers with low code quality or low code coverage, and as well, Apex classes and triggers with low version numbers. All right, that shows you some of the great tests that you can apply with Spotlight. Thank you very much.